Good Monday morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. It is the 10th of November. This video is for educational purpose only. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. So let's start. What a Friday it was. A lot of volatility. Started out with dumping a lot of shares Friday, but buyers came in at the end and lifted the market. Here we have the Nvidia, just as we talked about last week, that it formed this like double top pattern here, and then it sold off and it bounced from the cloud and just above the support area here, 176.76. 100 moving average coming up, so we bounced towards the end, and we could possibly see that it will bounce further here pre-market, or sorry, after-market, also trade a little bit higher. And if we're looking at Nasdaq 100 Friday, what it did, it dipped to the minor support there at 24,662 and the 55 moving average. And then it bounced really strongly there towards the end of the session. And if we're looking just very quickly intraday here, we can see how it actually Friday really strong buyers coming in, massive buyers coming in halfway through the session. And that has continued into this morning here, where we can see that the buyers, the US Nasdaq, US Nas 100 CFD and future has bounced strongly. Here's the 55 moving average where we bounced from, and we can then remove this one and add a new one. Say all right. So that seems like we are going to bounce further, and I think we could see it. It's still in a positive sentiment. There is divergence on the RSI. But the overall bullish trend is intact despite this massive sell-off there Friday that, well, yeah, as we can see, bounced. And I think it will continue to bounce here the next few days. Let's see if it can continue. I wouldn't be surprised if it does. More or less the same picture as US 500 there. And let's move on to the actual cash index. See what I actually did. Also here the 55 moving average dipped just below it and then bounced. And I think we can remove this one because it's not that really interesting. But it did move very close to, you can see here, just around dipping below the rising trend line there. We can adjust a little bit all the way down there. So still in a bullish trend and likely to continue to bounce further. Dow Jones, same picture really. Also bounced and managed to close above 46,758. Pre-market on the US 30, the Dow Jones CFD also bounced here, and I think it will continue to bounce. And we have the same picture on Russell 2000 here, the ETF on the Russell 2000 small caps dipped just below support at 237.56 and closed well above, and actually closed on a positive foot Friday. In the Asian markets, we also have seen strong market. Seng closed above 26,560 resistance, so we actually established a bullish trend. RSI hasn't closed just above the 60 threshold just yet to support that bullish trend, but I think we will push higher. We're above 55 moving average, we're above the cloud, we're above this resistance there. So a bullish trend has been established. Nikkei also seems to be resuming uptrend. I will remove this one there. And if it takes out the peak there at 52,695, then bullish trend has certainly resumed, and I think it will do that, but give it a few days and then we could see that. If it takes out the lows there from a few days ago, last week, well, then downtrend is back in session or being established. EuroStoxx50 Friday, yeah, they really caught the European markets on the bearish note here Friday, but as we can see here, pre-market, it is bouncing back above 5,600 and actually closed the EU50 CFD/future actually closed above 5,600 and seems to be pushing higher there. The DAX index, same picture, actually closed below the key support here at 23,684. Didn't get all the way down to 23,370. We are actually negative sentiment on the RSI, indicating lower levels. But look at this here, pre-market bounced really strong. We are still in a bearish trend though on the DAX, but the DAX index future and CFD didn't close below 60. 40 threshold on the daily here, so still actually in a positive sentiment. So let's see if we can crawl back above the cloud here throughout the day and close above. On the FX market and euro dollar, we talked about it last week that it could bounce up to test the falling trend line. It could actually crawl higher towards the 38.2 retracement there at 116.40, just below the cloud, and then we have the 55 moving average coming down there, and also we have the 100 virtually flat. So there will be really strong resistance in this area here, and adding to that, we also have these peaks there. So in this region around here, 116.40, 116.70, really strong resistance, and I think it will be rejected if it moves up there. Still in a bearish trend, so watch out and negative sentiment. Sterling dollar, also in a bouncing mode, very close to the 38.2 retracement there at 131.86. I think it will reach it. Will it also push all the way up to 132.40? Could do it, where we have the 200 moving average still rising there, but the overall trend and sentiment, both it is bearish there and negative sentiment. So eventually I think it will turn around and push lower. Looking at it very quickly at the weekly, we can also see here the bearish trend here, but 130 really key support. So let's see. Be careful there. It can turn around very quickly, but still we are in a bouncing mode. And how far? Let's see how it can take us. Euro sterling setting back a little bit, still bullish trend there. And if it starts crawling higher and take out the Friday's peak, then I think we'll see uptrend continuing. The bigger picture is we are in a bullish trend, but very volatile indeed. If it takes out 87.60, then there's risk down to 87.25. Dollar yen. Let's get rid of this one. That's annoying. Right. So we are still staying above 152.80 there. And now we are bouncing, and if it takes out the peak there at 154.5, then I think we'll break above 155 and push higher. We are still in a bullish trend. It is intact as long as we stay above 152.80. If we're breaking below that, well, then there's risk down to around 151.5. Euro yen. Strong bounce here Friday, and continuing the session this morning, really 178.15. That's the 786 retracement where it's actually testing at the moment. We could see it sliding back a little bit throughout the European session, but it seems like we will continue its bullish trend as we can see here. And if it takes out the peak there at 178.82, well, then there's potential up to 180. RSI currently back above 60 threshold. It's always been in positive sentiment, but if it can stay above there, and especially taking out the falling trend line, well, then there is potential higher to 180. Aussie yen. Really strong move here this morning, and let's just remove this one there. Then we can see very strong move, also very close to the 786 retracement here at 100.70. I think it will take it out, and if RSI can close above the falling trend line there, then I think we'll see higher highs of 102. 98.80. If it takes out that, well, then we have a different situation, but it seems like that's where we are pushing at the moment. We have the sterling yen, also very strong bounce after dipping below the 100 moving average. Didn't really close that gap here from early October, so we could resume uptrend, because we actually had a downtrend there, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and now bouncing. And I think it will actually do that, push higher here towards 204. And if it takes out that peak there at 204.25, then we are likely to see much higher levels. Aussie dollar, also strong bounce here this early morning in Asian session, and could continue higher. I think it will bounce up to the 61.8 retracement and the 55 moving average, and just below the cloud there at 65.56. So just in this region, I think we'll see that. Still negative sentiment, so we are still in the bigger picture, actually sideways or very tight, sorry, very wide range, not tight range, but wide range here, 61.8 retracement, and that'll be key resistance there. I think it will stop there, at least short term. Dollar Canada sold off a Friday, trading around the 50% retracement at the uptrend there. Let's see what it can do. Could still dip down to the 61.8 there at 139.84. But if it can start crawling up in this region here, then above 140.5, then I think we could see our trend resuming, because we're still in a bullish trend. There's no divergence on the RSI. And again, if you want to hear more about RSI and divergence and how I work with it, there's a video on my YouTube channel, Kramer's Corner TA. So check that one out. It explains very thoroughly how that works. The Sterling Canada, basically, this is the range here. So it got up to the 38.2 retracement there at 185.45, and then sat back. So if it takes out the lows there from the past couple of weeks at the 183.20, then I think we'll see it down here at 182. So a little bit in a limbo. I think overall it will slide lower. You can see we are below the cloud, we are below 100 moving average, and we are below the 55 moving average, which is declining. Euro Swiss, a lot of volatility, still holding on though. And we dip down there. Let's see, is it just that it might just be, yeah, there's some noise here very early in the session, so I'm a little bit curious if they are actually really true, but again, it was very thin trading, so take it with a pinch of salt. Maybe it's not really real trading, some misprints, I'm not sure, it's hard to say. Anyway, if it takes out slide lower here, and this basically takes out the lows here from morning, so let's assume that they are correct, but I'm not quite sure about it, then we'll see a downtrend in this. But we are crawling slowly higher, and I actually think maybe we could get up to the 786 retracement there at 93.37 area and below the cloud, so that will be key here, so watch out for that at the, here today, what we could do. Dollar Swiss, let's zoom in a little bit there. Dipped lower in a correction phase. Could dip down to the 61.8 retracement there at 88. No, sorry, at 80. At 0.80. But there's very strong support and still positive sentiment on the RSI. So I think we will bounce around and push higher here eventually. But we can still see a dip down before that plays out. That is likely to play out. A lot of lines here on my dollar index. We can see, it's just to illustrate that we reached the 161.8 projections there at 100.23, just a pip below it. So now I will remove it and say we are in this correction phase. We talked about it last week that it could do that, and I actually did it here at 99.29, the support here and the 38.2 retracement. I think it will bounce. There's still positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence. You can see that it's higher here than over here, so it's like it's not a problem. It should not be a problem, at least. I think we'll bounce back. But the 200 moving average coming down, they're kind of putting a lid on it. So we could be stuck range bound here in this area here between 99 and the peak there at 100.25. On the commodity side, and gold's testing the 38.2 retracement, seems to be re-establishing the bullish trend. Actually very strong bounce, and RSI has always been in as positive sentiment. If it closes back above 60 threshold, likely to push higher, and uptrend confirmed is if it pushes back above 41.62, which I think it will do. Actually, I think it will do that. So we are likely to push higher here on gold too. And silver, well, has established re-established the bullish trend after pushing above, and if it can stay above here, the little peak up there, then I think we're likely to see it to 51, which we talked about Friday also. So now we can remove this one. So it seems like we are establishing a bullish trend there. Can be reconfirmed by closing above 60 threshold there on the RSI, and it seems like that's the way the wind is blowing at the moment. But again, things can change, and look out for these lows here. If it takes out that, well, then we have a different situation. Then we're back in neutral. Platinum also bounced from the 55 moving average just above the support here at 14.94, and I think also will crawl higher. We are above the cloud, we are above all moving average, and they're all rising. So bullish trend there also on platinum. Copper also bounced there after testing the 100 moving average and the 786 retracement there, and let's remove that now. I think it will crawl back here and could continue its bullish trend that has been basically just range bound here for some time. But again, we talked about it for most of the last week. 55 moving average above the 200, both rising, indicating likely higher levels on the short to medium term. RSI, if it moves back above 60 threshold, and the falling trend line there, well, then likely higher levels. Energy market and crude oil, that also is in a bouncing mode. There are a lot of instruments here in a bouncing mode. We dipped to the 61.8 retracement there at 58.73, just a few pips from it, and now we are bouncing, but we are still in this bearish trend here short term, and we have all the moving average declining, negative sentiment. So I think after a little bit of a bounce that could take it up to around the 55 moving average there, then we are likely to slide back. Brent crude oil, more or less the same picture, obviously. Didn't get all the way down to the 61.8, but very close to, and also bounced there. Let's see about that, but all moving averages below the cloud, indicating we are in the sentiment, and the trend is a bearish underlying trend, but in bouncing mode. If it takes out the low there from the 6th of November, expect a push lower towards $60. European nat gas, see the tops here are lower and lower, so we are in slightly bearish trend, but in bigger picture, basically sideways range trading, but it is on the bearish side. So let's see if it can take out these lows there. That would be good for the European consumers and the energy markets, but for now it's still holding on a little bit. The US nat gas continuing higher here this morning, so not good for these guys, for the consumers in US. 450 on the US nat gas, and is likely to push higher, stalling maybe a little bit. Let's see here, but fairly strong trend there. Short term maybe stalling a little bit on the RSI, so let's see, it could sit back, but I would be very cautious being short if it was me. I'm not trading it, so, but I would be very cautious. It seems to be really pushing higher. Moving on to yields or interest rates, the US 10-year Treasury yield. A lot of volatility here towards the end of last week, just below 420. If it moves back above 420, we really have established a bullish trend that could take it higher towards 430, 435. If it takes out 405, then a bearish trend is back in station, but I will consider being range bound here between 416, 17 and 405. The European yields, they are crawling higher. Here we have it, crawling higher here this early morning. And I think we could see it pushing towards 272 here in the coming days and the coming week. So let's see about that. Unless it slides back below 264 area, I think we will see it crawling higher. UK, interestingly, still it is bouncing, but it's not in a strong bullish trend or anything. So, but I think we could see it bounce up to around 452, possibly 457. Japanese crawling higher, there we are. So still this bullish trend here, and very close to take out the peak there. That will further confirm it. And what we can do, we can guesstimate where it could push to. You can see Friday it closed just tested the 786. I think we could see the Japanese 10 175 up there. Finally, on the crypto sides, also bouncing after dipping below 100,000 a couple of times last week on the Bitcoin, bouncing some resistance here around 107,268. I think it could bounce up to 109,700 area, the 61.8 there. And Ethereum, let's see more or less the same picture after this downtrend there. Currently taking back half of it. At 61.8, 3,796. That's in this area, 3,800 area. So let's see what the day will bring, but it really seems to be in a bouncing mode. Question is, how far can it take us? All right, that's all for today. Very quick and dirty here. Have a nice day, and talk to you again later.